All right, perfect. So in this growth specialist training, quick DM audit check, it's a review from Friday. What we are looking for ultimately in this audit are going to be three main things. Number one, are they implementing the CLARE method? This ultimately boils, it's an acronym, but it boils down to is this individual demonstrating that they are problem aware and or solution aware, and are we leveraging opportunities to exploit to further accelerate the conversation, taking a gap, then being solution aware, problem aware, and then introducing our offer if in fact our offer can be the thing that bridges the gap. And being that we have a high ticket offer, we need to capitalize on all three of these components inside of the CLARE method. In addition, tonality, so these would be like nuances inside of the way that we are communicating, sentence structure, if we're leveraging emojis, if we're using ellipses, other types of like punctuation things, and our pacing, the way that we're communicating. So not sending large blocks of text, but just simply kind of mirroring the pattern of the way the other person is speaking, and also certain word choice. Then there's a timing sequence. So how quickly are we replying or responding to this person? And also keeping in mind, is this person a tier one, tier two, or tier three type of avatar? And again, we go very in depth, very, very in depth in regard to this inside of our curriculum and our Expert Marketing Academy, and also our MRR Accelerator program for Inner Circle of Legends. And so ultimately, all of these things working together are the bread and butter or the backbone of our program and what we talk about very heavily. So in this video, you're going to learn exactly the type of feedback that I would be giving directly that I did already provide to this growth specialist, but now I'm going to create this training and kind of simplify things for you so that if you're communicating with prospects, if you're having conversations with individuals, because maybe you don't have a setter at the moment, or you're thinking about onboarding a setter or a growth specialist, or somebody who, let's say, is going to be in some sort of capacity on your behalf in your inbox, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, sorry, TikTok, I don't know why I said TikTok. Anyway, or Facebook or what have you, then you're going to be able to learn. I would encourage very strongly, especially if this is beneficial to you, maybe you share this with somebody from your team, or you can always outreach to myself, here in this platform, and we can go ahead and have a conversation to see how and if it makes sense for us to be able to help you out, train your team, train you, etc. So anyway, without further ado, let's just jump right in. We're going to go over three main examples and then what we should in fact have done differently or what can be improved, and then some positive insight or positive feedback, and then moving forward from these three separate examples. So in this example, we have Addison. Looks like this conversation with the growth specialist and this prospect, it goes relatively well. This person is talking about how they feel really good about improving their situation. They want to level up. Now, this is a concept that we talk about very deeply inside of our curriculum, but it's ultimately that a person is either going from bad to good or from good to great. And you will find that there is the most friction for the individuals who are, in fact, going from good to great, because oftentimes there is a mindset or an ego shift that needs to happen first. And in this case, Addison is not in that situation. Addison looks up to, based on what was said prior in the conversation, there's a little bit of leverage that's already been created where Addison has been interacting on content, engaging, commenting, etc. And she feels like the person who she's communicating with on behalf of the growth specialist is in fact much further ahead of her. So there is a little bit of a gap there because she views the other person as being on a pedestal slightly. Now, this leverage can be something that the growth specialist would be using to their advantage. Unfortunately, in this specific type of conversation, we lacked a little bit of empathy, and so we missed the cue. But as you can see here, CLARE method is starting to be utilized where it says, just so I understand what I'm hearing you say is, so this is the looking for clarity We're listening to what the person has to say. We're acknowledging whatever it is that they view as their current issue. And then we're requesting some additional details regarding their bottleneck. And from there, we would extract what is their pain point and their goal, and then move from there in order to potentially propose booking a call or making an offer for them to buy directly. So in here, that is what is being said. Unfortunately, there is it's almost like it's too verbose, it's too complex, this response here. And then asking this question, it does, in fact, come across a little bit salesy. So we inadvertently created some friction. And then the growth specialist responds, hope I didn't ask a wrong question. She replies, hey, no, it just felt robotic. So right there, it's almost like we kind of broke the space of the trance, if you will, of the leverage and opportunity. So in saying haha robotic or maybe too serious, this growth specialist was trying perhaps to lighten the mood, and then the person ended up replying, Addison ended up replying and confirming what was going on for her. And we have here the growth specialist saying, my aim is to help you understand what's the best solution for your current roadblocks, because this person, Addison, ended up ultimately at this point of the conversation in between asking, what is the ulterior motive? What are your intentions from this conversation, etc. And the thing that you need to know about or be aware of is that if you're doing your own inbox appointment setting, or if you have somebody doing it on your behalf, whatever the situation may be, in both scenarios, the thing you want last is for the person to be thinking. We want them to not be in a very logical space. We want them to first be in an emotional space. And this is something that we discuss very heavily also in our simple sales infrastructure component inside of our curriculum in our program when we work with clients. But the flow of having a sale and the natural conversational pattern that needs to occur before a transaction occurs or money is exchanged, there needs to be emotional buy-in where the person feels emotionally connected to what it is that you are saying. So the moment that they, in this case Addison, are hyper aware that there is a buying process happening, there's going to be natural sales resistance and skepticism, and that is not what we want, because then that will create or inadvertently become a hurdle where this person will have an easier time saying no to whatever it is. It's irrelevant what the niche or the offer would potentially be, or how inexpensive it would potentially be for her as well. So anyway, in this conversation, the prospect, as I stated previously, had shared earlier in the conversation that she was going through a divorce, unfortunately. So that puts her in the category of going from a bad situation to a good situation. She did indicate that she has a paying job, but it's not quite the thing that she wants to pursue. So again, these are things that I've identified by actually going through the entire conversation. But what we want to do, if you're watching this right now and you're like, oh, I found myself kind of in a similar situation where somebody's divorced, or they just broke up, or they, something happened, there's like a life-altering event, somebody died, etc., then you just want to work quickly as much as you can to nurture that person, indoctrinate them with valuable content, things that are going to actually be beneficial to their current situation, the problems that they face on the journey based on where they are right now, current container, and then qualify quickly and book quickly if you can. And if not, then the opposite needs to be true, where you disqualify fast and you are fast to decline that they are not a fit to book with or work with you. So what's missing in this chat are the nuances in the language pattern. This prospect did indicate things felt robotic. We sent blocks of text that were too big. We used complex words. We lacked empathy. So there's a lot of room for improvement here. But ultimately, this person is still communicating with us. And so it looks like she's still connected and still being actively nurtured. Now, in the second conversation here, we have this prospect who is automatically in the very start of the conversation giving us the intel that we need, information, to validate that they view us as being ahead of them, and therefore creates an automatic authority frame where we didn't have to create it, that person did. Authority frame just simply meaning that who seems to be further ahead in terms of success or pattern recognition of who seems to have more flexibility or room to say that they have accomplished more or done more or helped more clients, or they already have an established business, etc. And so in this regard, Prince has indicated he views us the person he's chatting with, as the individual who is further ahead. So he verifies what type of offer he has. There's quite a bit of typos, so the only thing I can assume is either he's not very good at like correcting himself grammatically, or he's in a rush, one or the other. Now, these types of nuances are important to know because unfortunately, there are going to be people that you might chat with, or somebody from your team, a growth specialist perhaps, that are having conversations with people who are from lesser developed countries like the Philippines, Africa, you know, let's say Polynesian islands. They might be individuals who are from um, let's say perhaps the European countries that also don't have a lot of means, or their denomination is not worth a lot. That's essentially what I'm talking about. And so these are just some basic context clues that you would want to keep an eye out for. Now, that's not to say every person from India, every person from the Philippines, every person from China, every person from Africa can't afford to work with you if you're charging more than $1,000 to like $10,000. That's not accurate. It's not true. You will have the occasional outlier, but the thing you have to understand is that the way you must believe people when they tell you who they are, or when they show you something of themselves. So if this person is not taking the time to correct their typos, then there's a possibility as well that this person doesn't take the time to take action or correct themselves or improve their situation. Like, there's so many nuanced angles that you can kind of glean from what people do and what they say. So in this case here, we've asked this question. The growth specialist asked, how many clients do you have now since we last chatted? Then he stated, signed a couple more. So this was essentially a close-ended question. It's not a terrible question to ask, but there are other ways that we could have asked this type of question. He's showing sales resistance. He says signed a couple more. Prior to this aspect or screenshot of the conversation, he had been sent a lead magnet or a resource of some kind. And so the thing that we have asked after that is a much longer statement. Great. So are you satisfied with the outcomes, or do you have a specific goal to achieve in terms of signing clients? It's a little bit too, like, it's not casual enough. It doesn't feel like we're having a natural conversation. And so this person still ends up sending a close-ended question right here. We have to assume that people are never ever going to be satisfied. Like, it's just not human nature to ever be permanently satisfied. There are going to be some people who feel that good is good enough, and unfortunately, if you sell something that's high ticket, odds are very likely you're not going to be able to help those people, because good enough is good for them, and they don't always make the best clients. So in this case, we didn't really make room for that person to clarify that situation, or for us to listen or glean additional context in regard to their situation, or if they're even charging, high ticket whatsoever, or if they have a course. We don't really know much about their situation because we did not ask an open-ended question. So this prospect has demonstrated sales resistance. We haven't mirrored them. You'll notice that they're being really short with us, and we kind of have kept writing a whole lot. Also, we could have asked an open-ended question. We've moved directly into shop talk. And so to reduce the focus on shop talk, move back to a conversational side of things. What I would encourage next, if you find yourself kind of in a similar boat where the conversation begins to stall, you've asked a close-ended question, it's a simple yes or no question, you're like, I don't know where to go from here. Next best thing you can do is ask somebody, how did you get into doing X niche, or solving X problem, or helping clients with X thing? And then that would allow us to shine and redirect the spotlight back on the other individual, potentially creating new gaps and new opportunities for us in the chat to make things advance even further. So the positive note here is that prospect has in fact started using the lead magnet resources. So it's just going to be something that ebbs and flows, and it's a natural state of the situation here. So in this conversation with Ezekiel, not sure how to say that. Here you can see that after receiving the feedback previously, the growth specialist has in fact started to take note of, okay, when people are not replying very much, then I need to keep things short on my end as well, and not be overzealous or too needy. And so here this person ends up saying, I'm originally from Africa, but I work and live in the UK. Who knows, maybe they're on a sponsored visa or something like that. It's kind of curious. What do they do? how did they end up moving from Africa to the UK? Is it for the military? Like, we don't know their situation. So there are a couple things that we could have done differently right here. And so this is feedback that was given to the growth specialist. The prospect is very general, meaning very vague. He's not really being personal. And the growth specialist was successful at maintaining the authority frame, right? Because we were being short, we weren't making it seem like we need you. It was quite the opposite. The only thing that was a faux pas or an error slightly in this conversation, because it lowers status, is by saying sorry. Anytime that you haven't offended somebody, but it's taking you some time to respond, don't apologize. Just pick up right where you left off. Act like nothing ever happened. Obviously, there are other tactful ways that you can go ahead and acknowledge, like if you had opened the message and the person ended up saying, "Hey, you there? Did you read this? Can you check this out?" etc. There's an air of desperation on the other person's side. So this is a reason why you never want to say sorry unless somebody tells you explicitly that you have offended them, or they were expecting something from you. Okay. So when we shine the spotlight on somebody else, the way we do this in order to create new opportunities or gaps in the conversation and then generate an additional authority frame and further leverage in the conversation, that can be something that we can speak to about a case study or another lead magnet, or create an open feedback loop on how we solved, bird's eye view, how we solve this potentially for another client, or how their situation reminds you of XYZ thing that you solve for yourself, etc. It's only if those types of aspects of the conversation are welcome. It would be inappropriate for us to pivot into that at this moment in this specific chat. But ultimately, we need to learn a little bit more details about this person. So overall, great work that this growth specialist demonstrated by mirroring the other individual, using some sentence variation, and much further casual communication.